Welcome to Phreology Friday. I am Derrick Day, and he is
I'm Aaron Tomlinson in the flesh.
in the flesh, in the same room for the first time. You know that this month is 4 years that we've been doing the show.
Wow, that's crazy.
4 years, and this is the first time we're meeting. But here we are.
That's crazy.
So we are in Mansfield, Texas, at the La Quinta Inn, and we want to give them a shout out for letting us use this room here. And anyway, I'm just excited to be here, man.
Yeah, me too.
So just to give you guys some fill in about why we're here is I'm getting married on Sunday to the beautiful Maya, and Aaron has agreed to serve as our officiant.
Yeah.
So he is going to officiate.
Yeah, I'm feeling very revered. Very reverend.
Yeah.
I was already getting the respect from that was Maya's mom that I met. Right? Yeah. I was already feeling the respect. That comes with the office.
Yeah, they stopped cussing and smoking. But anyway, here we are, and you want to tell us what's in the glass?
Yeah, so you've been having for 4 years off and on, telling me about Uncle Nearest.
Yep.
And I've never tried it. So cheers, man.
Cheers, man.
It was a hero's journey getting here.
you want to tell everybody?
Yeah, I'm just tell a little bit. So, because here's my question: like, what for you? What is the worst airport, say in America? If you have to fly in
DFW, this one right here.
Okay.
Worst fucking airport in the country.
Okay. I think DIA is the worst fucking airport in the country. Denver International Airport. Explain to me why we have to have the largest airport in the United States for a city that has less than 1 million people.
Well, the conspiracy theorists say.
Well, where do all these freaking people come from? So, all right, traffic sucked. I left. I give myself 3 extra hours.
3 hours.
Yes.
Because you were going from Pueblo.
Because I'm going from Pueblo to Denver.
Right.
And I wanted to. They do have some nice shops and stuff, right? Yeah. And they have some great restaurants. They have a Papados there, and I like Papados. So I thought I'm gonna go. I'm gonna chillax, start my weekend right. Dude, it's crazy. I don't know what happened to Colorado, but the traffic there is horrible, like the worst, the absolute worst. And I think there were 3 accidents. There was road construction, and DIA is, as you know, is like 20 miles east of the city there, because when they built it, they couldn't put it around any stuff, right?
I'm old enough to remember flying in and out of
Stapleton. Yeah, me too, actually. Me too. I was doing it with my family, not by myself, but so where the place where I normally park is packed. Like, I mean, it's full. You can't even get into it. So like, where are all these people coming from? So I go to this other parking place, and it's like the size of 35 Walmart parking lots. Jesus. And it's completely packed out. Like, I'm driving up and down, and I'm thinking, theoretically, there might just be one parking place left. Anyway, so by the time, and then we waited 30 minutes for the shuttle, and then I get to security, and somebody had given me one of those like credit card things that turns into a blade, pretty sharp blade. Yeah. And somebody had given me one of those like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I've flown like 5 or 6 times.
We're looking at you, TSA.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, so you figure at least 12 times it's gone through the thing, right?
Yeah.
Not today.
This was the day.
This was the day. And I could see the image, and I was like, holy shit, that looks like I'm ready to do some business.
You're a terrorist.
So they pull me aside. They're frisking me. They're patting me down. They're going through my shit. So I barely made the plane, dude.
But here you are.
But here I am.
Here you are.
So I'm so glad I did. So great to be here, and so great to be here with all of you. So what's our topic tonight, Derrick?
Well, before we get into the topic, I want to acknowledge our studio audience. We have our buddy Larry. Larry's here, and my brother Brian, and my nephew Cameron, who's in the Navy. He's all the way from Poland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we want to give our live studio audience a shout out.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about Poland later. It's one of my favorite places.
Yeah, I love Poland too, but
yeah,
I've only been to Warsaw. That's me.
My first trip overseas was to Poland, into Warsaw, and then I got into a car with a bunch of guys that barely spoke English. And I don't know how far northeast, south, or west we went, but we went like to the corner, wherever Prussia used to be, that Prussian part of Poland. So my geography's not that good. Crazy time. Stayed with the mayor of the city.
Yeah.
Stayed with the mayor of the city. Had incredibly powerful services. Dude, I went into this. Can we do this?
Yeah, we can do it. Absolutely.
We're just
yeah. I mean,
we're just hanging, right?
Yeah.
So these people had not seen. Dude, this church. I'm just got to tell you, like it was all the songs that I recognized, but in Polish, like "All Fly Away, O Glory." When we all get to heaven, we'll sing and shout the victory.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. But we went in there and had the craziest services. We had miracles. So I tell you a story. It's a true story.
Yeah.
So they had not seen a miracle, healing, nothing ever in their lives. So they were just holding on for the rapture, right?
Yeah.
And I'm coming in on my hyper faith days.
Yeah.
So I'm preaching hyper faith, and so then they start seeing miracles, like legitimate ones. And this is a small community, so these people know each other, right? So all of a sudden they decided, like I was the man of faith and power for the hour, which nothing could be further from the truth, right?
Yeah.
So they drive me to pray for brother so-and-so. And a lot of these guys just spoke broken English. So I kind of made out a little bit, but it sounded like brother so-and-so had some kind of virus in the brain or something.
Yeah.
Something going on neurologically.
Is it like RFK brainworm?
Maybe. Yeah, probably was. Probably was. They take me, so this is their ICU, right? They take me into this, I swear to God, it reminded me of my 6th grade gym locker. It was like a MASH unit. Like this guy's laying on a cot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I figured I'd be wearing like more scrubs or something.
Yeah.
They made me put some on my feet. And that was it. I'm not even sure I had a mask on. I don't remember. And he's just laying there. He looks bad. And so they're like, Go ahead, man of faith. Lay your hands on him, do your thing. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't want to catch what he has. There was not an ounce of faith. I'm just thinking, oh my God. So I'm like, do I touch him? What do I do? So I did my thing, prayed for him as best I could. We head back. They got to get me back to Warsaw to speak at a meeting. And it's like a 3.5-hour trip, and they got to get me back in 2 hours because they took time out of my schedule to go pray for this guy, right? So I get in this car with this guy that cannot speak a word of very, very broken English. And he says, they drive fast in America, yes? And I'm like, no. And we are driving narrow roads. We're passing up a hill around a curve. You can't see nothing coming. And there's wreckage like every quarter mile. There's like wreckage on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And they have these like archaic ambulances, right?
Yeah.
So, dude, all I could think, I was praying. I was like, Lord, if we get in a wreck, I want you to take me. Because I do not want to get one of those freaking ambulances and end up at that ICU back in Gajisco next to brother Marek. Anyway. All right, enough travel stories. So what are we talking about tonight?
You're setting it up. We were talking about consciousness, and we're going to kind of mash up. We're going to do a little mash up here. Talk about consciousness and the multiverse.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And two directions that, like I sent you an article earlier in the week, and we were talking about that. And so consciousness. Well, first of all, law of conservation. And quantum physics says that energy is neither created nor destroyed.
Correct.
Right. So if our consciousness is some manifestation of energy, right? The universe is energy that is. So like if you look at like a wave function in quantum physics, so the wave function collapses into you and I. Right. So that's our consciousness is that wave function collapsing in us. So now we become an observable unit in a quantum state. Right. So consciousness then is part of the universe's aggregate energy. And our consciousness, our individual consciousness, what makes us unique individual
Mhm.
is the collapsing of that function in a locus that is us.
Correct.
So what happens then to the energy that is us in the event we die?
The age-old question.
The age-old question. What happens? Because this is what what religion tries to answer for us.
Correct.
That we have an immortal soul, and so I'm on board with that part,
Mhm.
the immortal soul, because energy is neither created nor destroyed,
Mhm.
right? So that soul represents some expression of energy or manifestation of energy. So that energy, when we die, when the body is no longer capable
Mhm.
of sustaining that energy as a vessel, that energy goes somewhere. Now, law of conservation says that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So you could say that energy goes on to become something else. It becomes a star, or it becomes some other kind of celestial body, or it becomes another life form, or something like that. The energy moves on. But here's what we were talking about earlier is there's one branch of the multiverse hypothesis that says every time you make a decision,
Mhm.
you create a new universe.
Right.
Now, let's say, so if when we die, let's say death represents a decision.
Mhm.
Let's say that's the ultimate decision.
Okay.
So let's reverse engineer this a little bit and say, okay, maybe not every decision represents a creation of a universe, but let's say that every death does. I'm just throwing this out here. I'm spitballing,
Yeah, of
because coming up with some, well, I don't know, far-flung hypotheses.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what we do here. We talk about things that are just
On everybody's mind.
on everybody's mind, and things that people maybe may or may not have thought out, but
Yeah.
so
Well, so we're getting into a lot of different existential questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So just pulling back some layers from this. First off, I think it's important that we have an agreed upon definition of what consciousness is, because that's one of those slippery words that I talk about all the time, that where I could be saying something because I have a certain referential meaning to that word when I'm using it, and you could be hearing something completely different because your references or people that are watching, their references could be completely different than ours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to define consciousness. And then I think it's really interesting, this idea, what happens to us after we die. Can we know what happens? Can we have an idea of what happens? How do we answer that question?
Yeah.
Right? And then that always leads me back to, what is the purpose of all this to begin with?
Yeah.
Like, what is the purpose of all of this? Like, is it going somewhere? Or is it just, like Joe Machuto will say, that it's just infinite possibilities constantly expressing? Maybe that's what it is. So maybe there is no terminus in that respect.
Yeah. So I think that the purpose of it is just to simply continue the flow of energy, right? In other words, that we are part of a broader conduit, and the conduit is just a matter of flowing from one direction to another. I don't think that there's any purpose to it. Now I know we talked about this, because if there's no purpose, is there hope? Can people find hope in a situation where there is no purpose?
Right.
And here's the thing: I think that we still can, because the hope is that we're able to reach our highest expression of our consciousness. That's the hope, that somehow I'm able to make this better. Now watch this, right? What were we doing before we were born?
Well,
No, serious question. Because if you think about it, right, if energy is neither created nor destroyed,
right.
This energy shows up, the wave function collapses, and we become a living being.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that energy was doing something before it got to this point. So I think this is my hypothesis, right? I think that if we're going to try to really understand this, instead of trying to figure out where we're going, I think we need to first understand where we've been. Because again, like if we think about it in the natural sense, those who don't understand history are what? Doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
Right? So if
go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. So I mean, if you're looking backward
Yes.
and say, what was I doing before I got
Yes.
here?
Yes.
I think that is probably the existential question.
Ooh, that's a good point. So, have you heard of the case of Bridie Murphy?
No.
Okay, so it's like the most famous, infamous case of someone with past life regression. So this guy was a professor at a certain university in Pueblo, Colorado.
Okay.
That's where I work.
Pueblo.
Where I work right now.
Okay.
And that's maybe why it's on my radar and not a lot of people's. And he did some kind of like hypnosis regression therapy with somebody. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've heard the story, so I'm not going to get all the details right. And she's talking about her life, I think, in Ireland, and talks about scenes of her life, her past life, people that she knew in her past life and stuff. So at the end of the day, long story short, when they investigate all of this, it turns out that the case of Bridie Murphy was all bullshit. It was all made up.
Okay.
Like none of it could be verified. None of it could be fact checked, any of that stuff. So like anything else, when that's the initial face that's put out there to the public, right? Then people are going to say, okay, well, it's all bullshit. An interesting thing, I'm kind of taking a side journey here, but an interesting thing about stage magicians is because of Harry Houdini, because of what happened to him in his life, and I think there was a death of a loved one, death of a son or something. Again, not doing great with the details. This is freaking awesome, by the way.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, man.
This is really good. So he went around trying to find a legitimate psychic and could not find one. In fact, he found them doing the same kind of stage tricks that he would do. So he got really angry, like, hey, we're doing this stage magic, but we're letting people know that it's illusion and bullshit. And we're doing it for entertainment. You're touching on the most important issues in people's lives, and it's bullshit. And so he took a real moral stance against that, right? So that kind of became part of the tradition of stage magicians. So people like Chris Angel today, or who's the guy that's really James Randi, went around. That all traces back to that Houdini stuff. But nevertheless, there are scientific studies that have been done of children, mostly children, who remember their past lives, like they forgot to forget. You know what I'm saying? So this isn't hypnosis. This isn't false memory syndrome. This is kids that remember stuff, right? And in those particular cases, when they go back, their facts check. The names of the cities check, the names of the people, the death that they died, the way that they died to death. There are studies that show that, like legitimate studies that show that. Now I bring that up because my son Elijah, when he was 4 or 5 years old, and we were Christians still, like I hadn't deconstructed. And he was telling me all about his past life in New York where he was a math teacher and he had 2 kids. And I mean, surprising level of detail. Now I couldn't check that out. But surprising level of detail from a 4 or 5 year old about this past life that he had before he came into this one. So then that, and I think Larry and I were going back and forth in a really, I thought, great discussion in the New Day Global group about this idea of, is there a self? Is there a soul, right? And so experientially and what's the word I'm looking for? Anecdotally, I've had a lot of experiences with departed things, entities, people. I've had my own psychic experiences.
Me too.
That could not be refuted. I didn't have James Randi to challenge me or whatever, but I also don't go around advertising myself as a psychic either. Like it's just a 1 or 2 time thing. But how do you explain that stuff?
So there was a case you mentioned the James Randi case, and there was another case of a kid in New York City that basically he was 6 years old, and he began recounting stories of his life as a World War II bomber pilot, and his understanding of the mainline British bomber plane, the airports and airfields that he flew from, the missions, everything checked out. Everything checked out. So I think, and again, this is my working hypothesis here, and because I say hypothesis, I'm learning to say hypothesis instead of theory, because I haven't subjected to any peer review. I haven't done any research or research papers, anything like that. This is all speculation. You know, because a hypothesis is really an educated guess, right?
Correct.
So my hypothesis is that from a spiritual standpoint, we're taught to look ahead. You know, the whole heaven-hell dichotomy is looking ahead, or reincarnation is looking ahead. We're always trying to figure out what's next. And I think that we need to take a step back and say, what was? Where were we before? Because again, I was looking at something Neil deGrasse Tyson had published, or it was a video that he did, and we've talked about this before. That basically, when you look at the makeup of human beings, that basically we are of the same substance as stars, right? That the human being is basically the same. We have the same makeup, and so when you look at things in the Bible, it says, "Let your light so shine." You know, that you are a city set on a hill, and all of these things that basically this is our light, because we are the same, you know, as stars. So if let's say that we were once part of a star that collapsed, or supernova or whatever, right? That it transformed, and that energy was scattered about the universe, and that energy winds up here in the form of us. Then that's a past iteration of the energy. And I think that, so, you know, I was just saying that when you forget to, or when you fail to learn from your past, you are doomed to repeat it. And I think that hear me, because I may be just blowing complete bullshit here, but let's say that I have something in my past. There was some energy manifestation in my past, a lesson that I was supposed to learn, something that I was supposed to glean from this, and I didn't. So now I'm in this state, right? And I find myself repeating the same mistakes. Now, here's the thing. When you repeat a mistake, I don't know about you, but this is me. When I repeat a mistake, if I've done something wrong, I fucked up somewhere, and now here I am, and I'm in the same position. I've done the same thing. I get really pissed off with myself, because I'm like, damn, didn't I learn from this last time? But now I'm like, so you see where I'm going?
I'm tracking with you, yeah.
Okay,
I'm for sure tracking.
So again, if you look at it from, let's look at it from the Hindu perspective, and at any time jump in and just say, hey, Derrick, stop.
No. I'm thinking of Pascal's wager, because I had a guy that when I was deconstructing kept coming at me with Pascal's wager, which is, about
what
hell.
If you're wrong?
About hell. And I flipped it around on him and I said, what if you're supposed to escape fundamental religion? And you keep coming right up to the edge in every life and don't make it, and then have to recycle and do it again. And so next time you're going to be born as a woman in Iran or something. And you're going to have to just do this again.
How's that burqa, buddy?
And just flip it. So anyway, that's where I think you're going. But keep going.
But that's exactly it. So let's say that there's something fundamental, something existential that we experienced in a previous life or in a previous manifestation of energy that we did not capture. And so now we get into this lifetime and we're going through this again, and we're frustrated because, like I said, when I do things now and I've repeated a mistake, I'm immediately frustrated. And so what if a lot of our frustration, our existential frustration, stems from the fact that we didn't learn this lesson. We know we didn't learn this lesson, but we don't understand. We don't have a recollection of it. I mean, we know that there's something wrong.
Right. So again, this begs the question. I always come back to the why, not in the Simon Sinek kind of way. But, this would beg the question: why do we? Let's just follow this thought experiment, this hypothesis.
Yeah.
Why do we forget? And I think I've heard answers for that. Like, why do we forget our past lives?
Uh-huh.
And I've heard, well, it'd be too much, to remember. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. People would talk about, past life regression therapy. I'd say, shit, I got enough therapy to do in this life. I've got enough trauma to resolve here. I don't need to be going back digging up stuff I don't even know nothing about. You know what I mean? But the idea is that sort of circular spiraling pattern. And the way I had karma explained to me was, it's not so much about, like people in the West think, retribution, but pattern, being at cause. And so you have a pattern that you keep repeating, and because you keep repeating that pattern, you keep generating the same results, right?
Right. And that's a better understanding of karma than the whole retributive.
And
perspective.
so changing your karma, or burning the seeds of karma, as some of the Buddhists talk about, is changing those patterns so that you quit creating the same mess.
That's powerful. That's a growing in real time moment.
Yeah.
Because
because otherwise you're back into judgment, almost like, without the forgiveness.
Yeah.
And we used to always say that as Christians, well, you got to work your karma off or whatever. At least we can plead the blood of Jesus. get our get out of jail free card,
So I think about this, like, what they call the golden ratio, or the Fibonacci sequence, and that results in different patterns: the seed of life, the flower of life, the tree of life, so on and so forth, right? What if those patterns are not indication of path, but let's imagine for a moment that there's something to escape.
Okay.
In other words, we look at these, we see these patterns repeated all throughout nature, and then we see them repeated in our lives. That you have an origin, you have an apex, and then basically it it curves down, and so you get this whole Fibonacci pattern, right? What if the idea? What if the secret to life? What if the secret to unlocking consciousness is breaking the pattern? Because think about this. This is a mathematical constant, and we see this repeated. We see this repeated in plants and animals, in space, in geography or geology. We see it. We see it in so many places. But who's to say that a pattern is eternal?
Right.
In other words, that you have to continuously repeat the pattern.
Right.
What if, so let's jump into the multiverse for a second.
All right. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So if we talk about a multiverse, that there are multiple universes, who's to say that the golden ratio, as we understand it, is a pattern that exists in every universe? What if in other universes, I mean, we have the same type of being, the same type of makeup, the same type of thoughts, except the pattern is different. So let's say that the whole key to understanding, multidimensional thinking or breaking free from this universe to see what's in a multiverse or another universe in the multiverse, that it's breaking the pattern. And I'm getting real.
No, it's all right.
I'm getting really way off the beaten path here. But let's just say that the whole golden ratio thing, that it's not.
Thank you, Larry.
Larry serving as our bartender here.
Our live audience.
Thank you, sir.
Larry's somebody else that's thought really deeply on these topics.
Yeah, and so let's give Larry a quick plug, a shout out for it, because he's got a blog, and he's writing some really good stuff. What is your blog called, Larry?
It's called You Might Be Right.
You Might Be Right.
The book is called The Way.
Okay, you have a book out? Okay. Yeah, see, I got to get the book. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to buy it. It's on Amazon?
Of course.
Oh, shit.
Won an award.
It won an award. Shit.
What award did you win?
The Nautilus Book Award.
Okay.
Rob Bell was a gold winner. I was a silver winner.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
That's put you in great company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, so what was the book again?
No way.
The Way. The Way by Larry
Larry
Jordan.
Larry Jordan.
Yep.
all right.
So, but anyway, let's say that the key to because let's say real quick.
Mhm.
Let's say that the only way that we understand to break into another universe is to transition. In other words, to die.
Mhm.
So our energy leaves this realm,
Mhm.
goes to another realm. So now we forget, right? We forget. Why do we forget? Because we are stuck in this pattern, and we haven't experienced anything else. But let's say that we try to experientially discover and navigate
Mhm.
patterns outside of our norm. In other words, again, we think of the golden ratio and that being the pattern that repeats itself in this universe. What other patterns are there? What other geometric shapes are there? And
So that does get into some ancient, as I understand it, Western esoteric teaching, was sacred geometry and stuff like that.
exactly.
So you said something to me today in the car. You said that you and Maya didn't chase each other, but you
Right.
found each
We
other.
found each other.
You found each other.
Yeah.
And so as far as like this multiverse thing, to me, if I were to be just totally rational Aaron about it with my current level of understanding of physics, which is not good. It's not going to impress the old Tyson DeGrasse or DeGrasse Tyson. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then I would just say it's all bullshit. Like it is what it is. We've got this physical universe. It's kind of locked in, closed. Even with the consciousness stuff.
You've said this. You're on the record as saying this that
am.
that there's something. There's got to be something more than this physical.
Absolutely. I'm just explaining why I believe it.
Okay.
I'm going to get to why I believe it.
Okay. All right.
Because I understand that it could be a stretch for people intellectually, is what I'm trying to say. For your average person, this could be a stretch intellectually to say, oh, come on. Every time you make a decision, or there's other universes out there that have a different geometric structure.
Yeah.
Here's my life, for whatever reason. People with weird experiences we found each other. And I get to know these people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing in their character that would lead me to believe that they're making this shit up. In some cases, it's not even helping them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People think they're crazy.
Yep.
And yet they don't demonstrate signs of mental illness. Just because you have an experience or a belief system. Did we freeze up?
It looks like, there we go.
Just because you have an experience or a belief system that's outside of the norm does not make you crazy clinically. Well, there are a very specific set of symptoms that make you clinically unwell, right?
Yeah.
So I talked a couple weeks ago about my friend Brian Scott, right?
Yep.
Who had an experience where someone shot at him. He felt the bullet hit him in the back.
Mm-hmm.
As this experience was happening, everything slowed down. He saw different versions of himself going various different directions. One version of himself over here lying in a pool of blood.
Yep.
He follows the version of himself that makes it. Calls the cops. The cops apprehend the guys. They find the 22 shells, the whole thing. His whole testimony is on my channel and his channel.
Mm-hmm.
And the only difference is now he doesn't go back to his normal life. He goes back to a life where childhood friends that weren't even childhood friends have become lifelong friends.
Right.
And he's like, why am I even talking to this person? And he could go back through his threads on Messenger or whatever, see where they carried on lots of conversations that he did not remember. He talks about he would go jogging in the same path every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets up the next morning to go jogging, and he would normally run through this park. And when he goes to run through this park, there's not a park there anymore. There's a shopping center.
Mm.
His kids are listening to different types of music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he thought he was going crazy. He thought he was losing his mind. So he started researching all this stuff. And he's got a research background, the master's degree. And so he starts researching all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I had another guy that found me, or we found each other, from the UK. This was back in 2017, 2018. Claims to belong to an esoteric order with a lineage in the Western mystery tradition.
Yeah.
I have no reason to question that. I mean, he had people around him. It would be a really big con.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like elaborate con.
Mm-hmm.
Got to know him for about 6 or 7 months. And I can't remember how he told the story, but he told the story about how now it's going to sound weird, but how they met with basically beings from another universe, almost in like this council type. And they were asking questions.
Mm.
And they said, we didn't have to deal with free will in our version of the universe.
Wow.
So we don't know how to tell you anything about the problem of evil or resolving free will or stuff like that. Did he meet with somebody? Hell, I don't know. But again, this was somebody that I got to know, had dinner with, had drinks with.
So
had
I remember
no reason to
when,
think
when
that
you
he
told
was
me
lying.
about this, I was saying, okay, this guy died.
Yeah.
In this realm.
Right.
And either he stepped into another universe or he created another universe by his demise. And so in this realm, he's, things that they're subtle changes, nuances,
Right.
Not sea changes, but subtle changes, his jogging path, his kids' listening
Right.
habits, things like that, right? Lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is what I'm getting at, because okay, if we look at the multiverse theory, what creates a universe? Because when we talk about the universe, our universe,
Mm-hmm.
we invariably return to the Big Bang, right? So what created the Big Bang? Now, watch this. Religious folks will say, well, of course, God did,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, God was ahead of all of this, and
Right.
popped his fingers, bang, there's the
Yes.
universe.
Yes.
But let's just say that a new universe is spawned. Okay, and I began the discussion by saying that it begins with a decision. Let's say I'm okay. Let me give you an example, a real world example.
Mm-hmm.
23 years ago, May and I met. We dated, right?
Right.
And I made the decision not to carry the relationship on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, we go on and live our lives. And so then we circle back and we find each other again.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say that decision created another universe in which, let's say that we wound up getting together, getting married, and having 10 kids. Or, that you create another universe where, that she doesn't exist, or I don't exist.
So if I understand how you're saying this, because I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
there is then a version of you in some universe where you didn't make that decision, you made the decision to stay together, and you potentially have 10 kids.
Right.
And there is a version of maybe where you didn't make a decision to get with her this go round,
Right.
and you're still living the life you were before.
Exactly.
So why are you here and not there? No, I know that is the multiverse theory, and that was Brian's thing. And the reason Brian's to me is so impressive is because number one, I know he knows how to research. He knows how to watch out for confirmation bias. He went and got a full neuropsych evaluation to make sure that he wasn't losing his mind or crazy or had some kind of head injury or something.
Yeah.
And he didn't have these theories about the multiverse. He was trying to understand what happened to him. And then he arrived at the same idea and conclusion by reading and researching. He claims everything that's ever been written on the topic of the multiverse. But it's a little mind blowing. It's a little because I want to know. I really want to know, because there are parts of my life right now that suck.
Yeah.
So potentially there's another me out there that's where it doesn't suck.
Okay, so let's look at this.
And how come I'm me and he's him?
I think that a good source of study would be to find people whose lives don't suck.
Yeah.
What is the secret of the person whose life that doesn't suck?
Right.
So I'm gonna bring up a friend of ours, mutual friend,
Okay.
Aaron Abke.
Yes.
Okay. So Aaron had a very interesting life.
Yes.
He was his parents were evangelicals. He became a youth pastor. He got married at a young age, because of the purity culture and all of that, and found out that things weren't, there was a lot of incompatibilities, inconsistencies between him and his wife. So they divorced, moved on, and Aaron began to look beyond Western religious thinking for a more a broader Eastern perspective, and he found it. And so we know Aaron, you and I both, and so I would say that looking at Aaron, his life does not suck right now. He's living his best life.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So what did Aaron discover that took his life from something that, because he was, so let me just say this for everybody that's watching: go out to YouTube, look up Aaron Abke, ABKE, and watch his videos.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting him in any way, but
yeah, since we're giving plugs, The Reality Revolution with Brian Scott would be the other.
Okay.
And he's also written a book called The Reality Revolution.
So I got to get that book.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm not misrepresenting Brian either.
No, but what I'm saying is that I think that one of the things that we don't do is look at the lives of people who their lives don't suck. And what do I mean by that? I'm not just talking about money, because there are some people that have money and their lives are
Sure.
Their life is a shit show, right? But then you find some people that they have everything that they need, all their needs are met, all their basic wants are, cared for, that they're not disillusioned, depressed, sad, or anything like that. That those are the people that we need to study, because I think that those people are the ones that they understand where they came from.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things they're doing in what's called positive psychology now. Like for Freud and to a large degree Jung, although Jung is his own thing. But Freud, Adler, all these early.
Wait a second. Is that bottle empty? God damn. Anyway,
Go ahead, get another one.
continue.
Seems like a lot more until you get 5 people. I think we get 2 bottles.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
B.F. Skinner, they were studying pathologies, people that would come because they had problems. There's a newer movement within psychology. I wouldn't say it occupies a major part of it, but it's called positive psychology, and they're attempting to do that. So like, who's the guy? Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill went out to study, the most successful people of his generation and find out how they think, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is you suggesting the same kind of thing, like, because to me, that's the problem with the therapy world. That's the problem with mental health. It's the problem with psychology, is that it's absolutely become a behaviorist model. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I understand it, because I'm going to get off on my tangent if that's
Go ahead,
all right.
man.
When you're doing anything with another human being, you are depending on them and their self-reporting with what's going on inside of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
The problem with self-reporting is, number one, we lie. But number two, even if we're not lying, we don't always remember correctly. We don't always remember accurately. Sometimes our memories are distorted, or our focus is more on the negative than the positive, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I told you, I don't know if it was on one of my live videos or if I told you, but I picked, because somewhere in my brain, I got this idea that I couldn't do well at math. So I deliberately picked fields, career paths where I didn't have to do math, where I could stay away from it.
Mhm.
I thought I was good at ELA because I was a good communicator, good bullshitter, basically. I could write a hell of an essay, you know?
Yeah.
And when I was going through my mom's stuff, because my mom kept everything, I found my ACT scores. And while I don't remember at this moment, what my ACT scores were,
But you were strong in math.
it was my highest score.
Yeah.
And ELA was my lowest score.
Yeah.
So here's my point. Somewhere in my orientation, I began to believe that I sucked at math, and so therefore I had to stay away from it, when in actuality, it was my strongest, at least the strongest that I did in ACTs, right? So this is why I'm saying this is the problem with self-reporting. So in trying to make psychology a science, what they said was it has to be what? Observable, measurable, repeatable.
Yeah.
Well, I can't observe. I can't trust your self-reporting.
Right.
So they started looking strictly at behaviors. I can see how you act. I can see what you say. And so most of the study in psychology, because it's now a science, is strictly behaviorist.
Right, because that's what's observable.
Which now gives no weight to consciousness.
Mm.
Because like Carl Jung was into consciousness.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, what are these symbols? What's in my dreams? I forget, the Red Book, I think, is just his book of imaginings and all this stuff. So now it's behaviorism.
Yeah.
And so your model for therapy doesn't really care about you as a person, at least in my view. It's about what are your behaviors that are going on and happening here, right? And then we're looking for the negative. Well, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. Because,
symptoms.
Yeah. And that's the only way you get paid as a therapist, because insurance companies aren't going to pay for you to sit there and philosophize about life or talk about your dreams.
The insurance companies don't care about root cause analysis.
Not at all. So, you have to use very behavioral interventions. So we're losing the concept of the soul in the West, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're just becoming machines.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so basically what you're doing is you're engaging in outcome-based therapy.
Right, absolutely.
You're looking for an outcome. And so in other words, what I want to do is I want to tweak the symptoms until I achieve a desired outcome, instead of going back and reverse engineering it to the root cause.
Right. So what's happening then is there's more of a push towards psychotropics, because we're treating the machine. So you treat it with medicine, right? And then behavioral interventions, which is take a walk in the morning, make sure you get a good night's sleep.
Let's talk.
But I don't know if that satisfies why people came.
Well, let's peel that back for a second. Okay, we got psychotropics, right? Medicine, right? Psychedelics.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to go down that rabbit hole for just a second, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm looking at psychotropics, these are medicines that treat symptoms.
Right.
Right. You have this symptom, you prescribe this medicine, right? Schizophrenia,
depression, anxiety,
ADHD,
bipolar disorder, ADHD. Yeah.
Right. So you're treating the symptoms, right? Now psychedelics, on the other hand, say, okay, I want to understand the root, the why. I want to reverse engineer this back to an origin.
Yep.
Right. So from the standpoint, I want to tap into your clinical professionalism.
Sure.
And let's talk about the difference between psychotropics and psychedelics.
Mhm, sure. Interesting thing is that psychedelics are now mainstream enough that the academies can do research on them. So Andrew Huberman, I would guess most people know Andrew Huberman and his podcast.
Yep.
He teaches neuroscience at Stanford University Medical School, right? He's able to go on and talk about the science behind psychedelics on his channel.
Mhm.
And he says, 5 years ago, 10 years ago for sure, 5 years ago, whatever the time frame is, he says, I would have been fired for even bringing it up.
Yep.
So there's lots more coming out about as far as research and the benefits and effects of psychedelics, both as a psychotropic, meaning to address anxiety, depression, symptoms, and also in conjunction with a therapist, because they're able to open up more freely and that create that therapeutic alliance. But here's the interesting thing about psychedelics as I understand them. When someone takes a lot of psychedelics, which I never have, in fairness, their sensory experience explodes. They talk about the colors as being so rich, the images being so vivid. They talk
real quick, my brother and I, we've done lots of mescaline.
Okay. Well, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not the experienced one here.
We've done lots of peyote and mescaline, by the way. So,
Okay. Yeah. So the music, so all that stuff. So based on the machine model that consciousness comes after brain cells.
Yeah.
That consciousness or our thinking or whatever is simply the byproduct of chemicals and electricity and something going on at the cellular level in the brain. You would expect to see an increase in brain activity.
Right.
The exact opposite is what they see when they do brain scans.
Yeah.
The brain activity, in fact, one study said it's about as close to death as you can get without being brain dead. So that's counterintuitive. That doesn't make sense based on the materialist model of consciousness.
Right.
So there is that. Now, yeah, exactly. So then the question becomes, is the brain an oscillator filtering out information so that you can focus, or is it producing? That seems to lend itself to the idea that it's more the oscillator than the producer of it, right? Now psychotropics, here's the funny thing about psychotropics, and I'm not telling anybody to go off their psychotropic medicine.
If you're prescribed, if you have a
generally,
prescription, stick to your prescription.
I'm speaking very generally.
We're not giving medical advice here.
That need it and have been greatly helped by it. But this is true. If you look at almost all your SSRIs, your SSNIs, all this stuff that's messing with the serotonin and stuff in the brain, if you research it and you look at the physician's desk reference or the information on the drug, in almost every case, if not every case, it says the mechanism is unknown. And this is the problem with a lot of just medical science in general.
Yeah, it's not just psychotropics. That's like you said, medicine in general.
We measured the result and we have no fucking idea how we got to that result.
Yep.
We have no idea what this is actually doing in the body or the brain, but this is what people are reporting, right? That's almost, now here's the other thing about psychiatric medicine though. It's the only form of medicine that gets practiced where they don't actually look at the organ that they're treating in some way, shape, or form.
That's true.
I mean, if you break your leg, they're going to fix it. They're going to give you an x-ray.
But, so like when you talk about like blood pressure medicine, they check your kidneys, right? You're taking certain kind of medicines, they check your liver function and all of that, right? But there is nothing that actually checks what's going on in the brain.
Exactly.
Right.
And you know what? So you know what they have to depend on?
Behavior.
Self-reporting.
Yeah, self-reporting.
We're back to self-reporting because that's the only feedback mechanism they have. I take blood pressure medicine.
Yeah.
It's easy. If it goes up, they give me different. If it goes down too low, they change it.
Yep.
Insulin, would be another example of something that's easy to measure. the only way to measure what's going on with a psychotropic drug is the relationship between the prescriber and the person taking the medication. So if they're not consistently giving feedback to their prescriber, then they could. That's why people say psychotropics don't work. Well, sometimes they don't work, but sometimes it's because there's no feedback mechanism going on.
But you're depending on self-reporting again.
Yes.
Right.
So it's circular.
So let me say this, right? Because I read something this week that the psychedelics are not regulated because of the damage that they can potentially do to the human body. They're regulated because they open our mind to looking at alternate possibilities. So let's talk. We're talking about multiverse. We're talking about consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into psychedelics, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say that, because this is something you and I we've talked about on previous shows, that what if you have the mechanism by which you're able to peer into another universe? And again, this is another hypothesis of mine, that the Jeff Bezos of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Larry Ellisons of the world, the Oprah Winfreys of the world, that their success is entirely dependent upon something that they peered into another universe and brought back here, because their success doesn't make sense by logical standards that we understand.
Right, correct.
It's like, if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, he's what, the 4th richest man in the world. How did he get here? It's like, you had Bill Gates, you had Larry Ellison, you had, you have all of these different people, but here this guy steps in and immediately claims a spot. What is it? How is it that what is it about Facebook that makes, or Meta, what makes it so special that he's able to have a seat at that table? And my hypothesis is that he saw something in an alternate universe, right, brought it back here, and was able to manifest it and make it work here. So let's say that psychedelics, that they allow us to freely peer into and extract from alternate universes. Mm-hmm. And if you think about that, right, from an equity standpoint, mm-hmm, human equity standpoint, mm-hmm, that really throws a wrench into everything, because now let's say everyone has the access to psychedelics, mm-hmm, and they're able to freely peer into other universes and see other versions of themselves or other versions of other people, and they're able to bring something back to manifest in this universe that benefits humanity to the degree that it's able to improve their lives. Mm-hmm. So psychedelics, then, let's just hypothesize for a second that psychedelics are the gateway that allow us to peer into the multiverse.
So that would go with, again, what, especially with what Larry was saying about, are we filtering out? Is the brain filtering out information, blocking it out, or is it creating it, generating it? So if it's blocking it out and the psychedelics shut that down, then you're actually seeing reality as it is.
Ooh. So now we're getting into some Matrix style shit.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, you want to read a book that will freak your shit out. Anything, in my opinion, by Whitley Strieber. He wrote the book, The Communion.
Yeah.
But he and Jeffrey Kripal, who's a humanity chair at Rice University, he and Jeffrey Kripal have written a book called The Supernatural. And I was arrogant. I thought I knew all there was to know about the supernatural. I really did.
Yeah.
That book freaked my shit out. Like, freaked me out. Because they talked about stuff that we never even thought about in the church or any other spiritual circle that I'd ever run in. Based on Whitley's experiences and experiences of other people. And then what Jeffrey does, he comes in as a scholar of comparative religion, and compares their present experiences to past religious mystical experiences, because that's kind of his specialty, is past religious mystical experiences. So Whitley will write a chapter on this is what I experienced, and then Kripal will come in and give his scholastic, scholarly evaluation of it, and then also bring in, well, this isn't as new as you think,
Right.
because in these groups and these groups, they also had these types of experiences. Why am I bringing this all up? Because he hypothesizes in his book that we do not see even ourselves as we actually are, and talks about experiences where people see themselves in completely different forms. And I'm talking like, I can't remember how he describes it, but not human being form.
Yeah.
Right. For a moment, like that veil is penetrated and they're looking in a mirror and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And he had an experience, I think in a lucid dream or something that was similar to that. Fascinating book. Since we're recommending books and material.
Yeah. What's that book again?
It's called The Supernatural. And it's by Whitley Strieber and Jeffrey Kripal.
So since my brother's here in the audience, I'm going to pick on him, right?
Okay.
Because when we were kids, we had like a lot of, we used to spend summers.
I'm going to get another water.
Okay,
I'm really thirsty.
no problem.
So we sweat pouring down while I'm running to the airport.
OJ. So when we were kids, right, we would lay on our backs in the backyard and look up at the stars, and we talk about all kinds of shit. And so I remember you used to see how can I say this? It was like you used to like unmask reality, and like because I remember conversations that we had that like you would be like, okay, what if you're looking at a situation and like red is blue. I remember conversations that was I'm not getting it exactly right, and then Uncle Nearest is kicking in, but.
Uncle Nearest is kicking in.
Yeah. But the thing is that I remember you used to have some really deep spiritual insights, right? And no, but here's the funny thing about that, right? Because see, like now you're a Christian minister, right? So when you go back and you look at like the experiences that the things that you saw, right? Things that remember the movie Altered States, and how we were like really into that, like how to achieve altered states of consciousness, right? And you were really at the bleeding edge of that, right? Because you would talk about things. I remember you were talking about something where you were able to slow down your heartbeat, right? So when how do you reconcile those experiences with the religious experiences that let me rephrase that. Not religious, because I don't want to pigeonhole it. Let's say the spiritual experiences that you have now.
I'll say that reality is deeper than the surface that we scratch in church. This is one realm, right? This is one plane of existence.
Come over closer so the people can hear you.
So I think what we do is we oversimplify.
So here, take my phone.
You're gonna put me on the spot. Okay, well you're gonna get it.
You're gonna put you on the
You're
camera.
gonna get it. Hey, how you doing? All right. I'm Derrick Jr.
No,
yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm his little brother, man. I'm his little brother. But seriously, thank you for honoring me with the seat and giving me a chance to speak. And of course, I'll try to be, as simple and complex as I can at the same time.
He calls himself deep thinker. So just.
I do, because and my brother is right. I always looked at things and kind of saw things on a deeper level. So not just looking at things as you can see in the physical, as the end all be all of anything, of everything. You kind of, I don't know if everybody does, but I've always had a sense that we're not just existing here in this body and that's it. So something you said about, treating people, you're treating, I can't remember exactly. It was like you're looking for the result. And you're cheating outcomes. You're looking for outcomes. You're treating a machine, but we're spiritual. There is a soul, and the soul of the person is not just the sum total of our flesh.
Right.
Right. It's very complex. So to say that, people talk about the multiverse. I'm not sure about me existing somewhere else and all of that stuff. I'm not sure about. In fact, I don't really ascribe to that. But I can tell you that I know there's more than one realm. In fact, there has to be at least 3, maybe 4. Right?
Yeah.
If we just
Quantum
simplify,
physics says at least 11. But
if we just and it could be, but if we just simplify it and say there's the seen and the unseen. Right. So there's, first of all, there's what we can see in the physical. Then there's the unseen of what makes up the physical. Right. And then there's something higher than that, because your consciousness is not just the sum total of a bunch of electrical impulses against, flesh and blood. Right. So there's something higher there.
Yeah.
And then there's something ultimately higher than that, right?
Yeah.
Where there's an existence on another plane. So there are other realms. Even if we just look at, terraformer, inner atmosphere, space, and the relationship of space-time and all of that.
Yeah.
Then we know that those are radically different, planes of existence, but we're all intertwined somehow.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes if we get too, I say, grounded in the type of faith that we have and oversimplify it, when the more complex things come around, then you have a hard time trying to reconcile that stuff.
Right.
I hope I'm not going off a topic.
No, you're good.
But you have a difficult time trying to land the plane if your faith is just what you were told here and what's as much as you can understand in the book, because the book is even more complex than what you are able to comprehend, right? Because you're dealing with a bunch of people who had a bunch of different experiences, mm-hmm. and brought all of those experiences and thoughts into their writing and their text, and trying to tie all of those things together. We can only write so much. So if you're, and I have to say this too, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to sit down and put the pen to the paper and write their thoughts. Because if nobody ever did that, then we wouldn't have the body of work that we can bring together to contemplate all of these things. How could we do that? It's only through the collective thoughts of many people who were inspired and actually had the gift to be able to put pen to paper, and for their posterity to give to us, mm-hmm. To sit here and talk about it, right? Yeah. It's big. I've always, I'm not, I think sometimes when people, and I'll just say this from a Christian perspective, I say there are a lot of simple Christians. I say that with respect.
With respect.
I do. but I think we ought to be deeper. We ought to take the time out and actually be able to take all of those other ideas and take them into consideration, because then it's like the scientific method. If it's not tested, then
One of the things that
Yeah.
really frustrated me when I was pastoring, I would encourage people. I talk about the dumbing down of
You come on
Right.
over here and sit in my seat. And
all right, come on,
Yeah,
guys.
I'm
now you-
gonna step
Well, come
over
on.
here and
You
take my
know,
seat.
we would. Well, I'm relaxed. All right, Aaron.
we would talk about I would talk about the dumbing down of the Christian faith.
Right.
And here's what I mean by that. If you compare to other faiths, where devotion maybe is a little more extreme. And I'm talking about devotion to the Quran. I'm not
Right.
saying it's a better way to go,
Right.
or devotion to the Torah among our brothers and sisters in Judaism, right?
Right.
And then we just had this really simple, I used to call it the Gomer Pyle gospel, like, oh shucks, Jesus loves you, and just come to the cross,
Right.
and yet there's been generations for millennia of very deep Christian thought
Mhm.
that very few Christians in America, at least, have even got the first clue about. So when you start saying that, there's
Right.
the simplification of the faith, and there's something that's so much deeper, even within the book itself, even within the writings itself, that so resonates with me, because I gave up on evangelical Christianity in 2000, and then I kept pastoring for another 24 years. Well, not 24, another 20 years. But that was going back and really digging into some of the depths of really solid Christian philosophy,
Okay.
which I don't think is very much presented anywhere much within the Christian realm today.
Right. And yeah. So I agree with that. So there are a lot of great Christian thinkers, and I can't sit down here and try and enumerate them, Origen, Augustine, Tertullian, and all, and but we also have to take, because these writings are prevalent, you got to take into account Hume and Kant and people like that who really did, thought, express their thoughts on morality and things like that in the human experience. So, taking those things, so you look at that, and then you have to look at maybe some of the things in the metaphysical, because I think what we do, so one of the problems with Christianity is we're willing to, and you talked a lot about miracles, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're willing to entertain miracles, right?
Mhm.
But when it comes down to the spiritual world, the only thing we talk about is the devil.
Yep. I agree. You could keep coming. I mean, you're reminding me of past versions of myself.
So I'm like, is that all there is, right? Is the devil, the devil maybe, whatever. Okay, go ahead.
So one of the things, because I really got into sort of a mystical form of Christianity, one of the things that bothered me was reading in the book of Colossians, where it says that Christ has made us fit to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in the light.
Right.
And then in Ephesians chapter 2, where he says we've already been seated
Yes.
in heavenly places, plural,
Right.
in Christ.
Christ. Yes.
Most people, when they conceptualize that, they think, okay, I'm somehow mystically united with Christ in one spot.
Yeah.
Not what he says. Heavenly places. So when you're
Yes.
talking about depths. But I got fixated on that Colossians. I think it's like chapter 1, verse 10. What does that mean? If I have an inheritance with the saints in the light,
Mm-hmm.
and Paul says, I need the spirit of wisdom and revelation to be able to comprehend that.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Because nobody's talking about that.
Right.
Nobody is. And the only thing when you talk about heavenly places that they want to talk about is principalities and powers
Right.
seated in heavenly places. And I'm not even sure Paul was talking about real demons in that
Right.
scenario. So that
Yeah.
pushed me into this sort of mystical realm of saying, okay, Lord, I want to know what my inheritance is in the light.
Mhm.
And man, did I start having some crazy encounters and experiences in what I would call heavenly places. So that's all I'll say about that.
So that's deep, right?
Yeah.
And it is deep, right?
I didn't mean to cut you
It's-
off. I just want to
but no,
validate what
but-
you're saying.
Thank you. So it really is bigger than how much we simplify. So I started listening to a Christian thinker named Michael Heiser.
Mhm.
Michael Heiser talks about the divine council worldview.
Yep. I've got his books, so I know exactly
In the
what you're
divine,
talking about.
yeah. So in the divine council worldview, it not only explodes our view of where our place is, humanity, within the divine, but it also explains a lot of why things are the way they are. What Christ came and did, why he did what he did,
Mhm.
what was God's original intention, if you want to go there, for mankind, and where is mankind seated in the end, and so we can discern some of that, but what we can't do, and I'll just speed to this part. What we can't do is we can't discern what that all means.
Mhm.
Right? It's like the scripture that says we don't know what we'll be like, but when we see him, we'll be like him, right? And we will know him as he is. What is that, right? The entire scope of the universe and God's creation is not as simple as a lot of people, the old school saints who used to say, I'm going to walk on streets of gold, I'm going to get my wings, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to do anything but worship and walk around heaven all day. No.
Yeah.
There's work to do.
Yeah. So,
And, so anyway,
Yes.
we have to take our place in the divine council.
right.
And I think that's what he talked about. Well, I don't think that's what he talked about. It's that mankind's place in the divine council actually seated above those who were first, so in the first would be last and the last would be first. It makes a lot more sense when you start talking about, divine beings and their roles and what they did and didn't do, where they failed and where, and those who succeeded. So, yeah.
Okay, so
You're the only other preacher I've ever met talk about the divine council
Okay.
in that context. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
All right.
I'm going to stick my head in
Yeah.
here because, like, divinity,
Yes.
who holds the rank of divinity? Is that something that's reserved for the Godhead, or is that something that is translated into those who are in Christ?
So we have to define what divine is. So we have to be, people are real careful about this, right? About divinity, right? Because divinity is reserved for the Godhead, right? No. Divinity is reserved for what we would call those beings that are on a higher plane than what we are. Now, I say that when I say, flesh and blood.
Well, wait a second. Let me ask
okay.
you a question. Can we ascend to that level?
So the simple answer is that the intention, the intention from the beginning was that
That we all are
humanity
divine.
would be added into the divine.
Yes.
That was the first order of things.
Yes.
Is that you could stand at that time, man met God in the garden at the mountain of God. When you step into that plane, you are not in this anymore. So let's talk about Paul. So Paul's a good guy to talk about, right? Paul got stoned to death. Now I don't know when this happened, but I got a feeling.
So just to be clear, so
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
the end goal
Yes.
if we're biblical, if we're scriptural.
Yeah.
Is apotheosis, is the transformation of humanity into divinity.
Translation.
Into a divine humanity.
So the first, right? The first fruits. And this is I get a little tingle. I talk about it.
His spidey
Imagine
senses are going off.
that the one who exploded matter and everything into existence said, out of what I made, I want to add it into my divinity.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take the physical and add it into the spiritual.
Now, see,
I'm going to explode it out, but then I'm going to pull it back in. And I'm going to make something that's never been in the existence of time and space. I'm going to add it.
Let me fuck with you for a minute, because you know what you're talking about? You're talking about a sine wave.
Could be. So here's the thing. These things,
I'm expanding out,
right.
I'm contracting in.
So
I'm drawing in.
I don't know about a sine wave, but I'm about to give a hanky wave.
Look.
We need to offer back.
So there's one source of truth, right? There's one source of truth. And we can discern truth. Let me pause. I'm gonna pause for a second, because you said something that really hit me, because you talked about hating math and all that. And I hated it, and I did everything to avoid math. In fact, I said I'm not gonna go that way with my degree. I'm gonna go into my master's of executive leadership, because I can limit how much math I have to do.
We are my brother from another mother.
so you hit right home with that.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why I went into information systems instead of computer science.
Yes,
because I was trying to avoid the math.
So really, if you go and you take everything that can be understood, it has to lead back to the source. It has to. If it doesn't, then it's not going back to the right place. Maybe we misdirected it, right? When we did our what do you call it? Reasoning, from cause to effect. So if you're reasoning from cause to effect and you don't get back to the root cause, then you've deviated somewhere. So you've messed up in your reasoning. So you have to go back and look at it again. That said, everything that we see, you talk about that. Yes, sound waves, energy waves, the laws of thermodynamics, all of that stuff, all of it does give a good explanation for how things are and gives us kind of a good idea of where they came from. But where I'll go back to what I was talking about adding this to the divine. If this is what's God's, and I think it is what His intent is, His intent. Hey, was in fact, I like to say, hi.
Your wife came in and you got distracted.
I like to say that I'm not trying to hijack this, with
I'm
Christianity.
about to put you out.
But let me say this real quick. When it says that Jesus went and sprinkled His blood, in the book of Hebrews, sprinkled blood on the altar, on the mercy seat in heaven, then we know that He took humanity into the divine. We're not just intended to sit on the council, but to be seated with Him. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are joined into the divine.
Yeah.
This is so. But there still is, while it's all together, there still is a separation. Okay. Right. Because everybody's in their place. Yeah. Right. So when everybody's in their place, everything will be put in order.
Now, see that, what he just said, that was the message I preached.
Yeah.
I've never been able to articulate, because it isn't quite the grace message.
Right.
And it sure as hell wasn't legalism.
No.
Yeah.
But it was that.
But it's loaded. It's chuck loaded. I mean, 308, 76239 loaded.
Yeah.
Loaded, packed, with grace.
Well, yeah, it is. Of course it is.
Because it's only by
But
grace.
but grace
You
starts to
can't-
stop short because they're still dealing
Yeah.
with just the sinful redemption model of
You can't.
Christianity.
You can't.
Oh, man, it's taking a
Yeah,
picture
she's
of all
taking a
this.
picture. It's like this, and I'll say this: you can't join into the club unless you're brought in. Somebody who's inside, who has the power to bring you in,
It's the inside
has to
job.
be the one to bring you
Yeah,
in. Right?
yeah.
You can't come in yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like
know.
I couldn't just go crash a wedding on Sunday just for the
Yeah,
hell of
you
it.
could get right unless you're
I have
invited.
to be brought in.
So there you go.
I'm getting the
All right.
metaphor.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks
No,
for-
it's good
thanks
stuff,
for
Brian.
coming in,
Thanks
man.
for
I love
sharing.
you, man.
Yeah, love you too.
Hey, that's good stuff.
Yeah,
Really.
Thank you. All right.
All right, so I
Well,
guess this is a good point to land
yeah,
the
it
plane.
is. Yeah, it is. Yes, sir.
So, you want to go through comments, or you just want to?
I think we should just land. the
Yeah, we'll
plane.
just land the
Yeah.
plane.
I think our party got crashed
It did get,
in a good way.
Yeah, it
In a
did
good
get
way.
crashed in
And
a
I'm
good
not
way.
complaining.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the only one that still has Uncle.
You still have some Uncle Nearest left.
Uncle Dearest.
We drank that whole thing.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have anymore because I called it Uncle Dearest.
Yeah.
It wasn't just him and me.
It wasn't just the two of us. Yeah. Brian drank some. Cameron drank some. Larry drank some.
I missed the party.
You missed it,
I missed the
man.
party.
But you could go to the store and get some more.
I'm just saying, man. Going to keep the party going.
I'm up for it.
Hey,
Bring it on.
you know what? For everybody that's watching, I want to thank y'all for joining us. Maya and I's wedding will be live streamed. Come over here for a minute. Come here for a second. Come here. Aaron, what are you doing?
Come on. Hey, man. I was raised right. Because I open doors.
See? Right.
I open doors. Why? Why do I help? Why do
I don't think we
doors?
want to say it. We don't want to say it. We don't want to say it. Wow.
Anyway, I was saying that for those of you who are watching, I hope that you'll tune in and the live stream for our wedding.
Yay! Yes, that's why everyone is here and everyone is thoroughly enjoying libations. And my unbridled shower just ended, and
Did you thoroughly enjoy that?
I did. It was
All right.
really nice. We had my unbridled shower at it's like a wine dive.
Oh, nice.
So we have all had many glasses of wine.
Okay, cool.
Land the plane.
Yeah.
Tune in on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday,
I had a couple
4
glasses.
p.m.
Tune in on Sunday.
And,
This live gig is pretty good, man. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do more of this.
Exactly. But dude, I want to say, man, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so glad that you're here.
Likewise,
Oh
man.
man, I love you.
I love you too.
And thank you for being here to help me celebrate this and help us celebrate this. And
Wouldn't have missed it.
yep. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. For sticking with us for almost an hour and a half.
That's all that was?
That's all it was, man. I'm looking at the clock at the timer. right
Oh,
there.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it does.
Want to thank my brother Brian for chiming in. Hey Larry, why don't you come over here for
Yeah,
a second,
come on,
man?
Larry.
Come on in. Let's get you on screen here so that everybody can see the illustrious Larry Jordan.
Yeah.
Great to be here. My gosh, what a nice evening this was.
Oh man, it was awesome.
Really,
Glad
really
to
cool.
have you here. And by the way, I want to tell everybody that Larry has fucking excellent hair.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Look at that.
Yes.
So
Okay, thanks a lot.
that
guys.
being said, hey, go ahead and give us the close, man.
Man, I don't know. Just growing in real time for sure.
Yeah.
But it's so good to be around your family and your people.
Well, you're
You know.
you're my family, man.
Yeah,
so,
I know, but I just there's such a good energy, and
Yeah.
I feel very privileged and grateful to be here. So, yeah, I don't know what to say as far as peace and hair grease.
One more thing, Seven, come on over here for a second because I want to put Sad on the spot.
Yeah.
Because
Hey guys, how you doing?
This is the guy that's going to be producing the video for the wedding, and he's done some fantastic stuff. So I just want to give him a shout out.
Hey, appreciate it.
Put you out in front of people. If you guys want some video work done, you need to talk to Cedric.
No way. No, get out of here. Get out of here.
No. We're gonna put you out, man. So
Hey, it's all good. We're gonna have a good time on
we're gonna have
Sunday.
a good time on Sunday.
Hashtag Daydream. We're gonna start the stream at 3:30, 4 o'clock. They're going up and down the aisle. Make sure y'all there to check it out, y'all.
Yeah, but we're gonna make sure that he gets fucking paid. So that's the deal. So that being said, hey, thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for growing in real time with us, Aaron. I love you, man. Thank you for being here. I'm honored, humbled,
And our live audience.
and
And our online audience. You guys are the best. So
All right.
we'll be back with you. I don't know. Maybe not next week.
No, not next week.
I think there's a honeymoon.
Yeah.
Honeymoon. I think there might be some
Well, you know,
some
you-
splaining to do.
You can always run the show and just bring,
I could. I could.
You could.
I probably should do that
Maybe
because
you
you've
should
done
do
that.
that.
Yeah. I'll be on vacation too, but
Oh, well, if you're on vacation, then we're no.
yeah, but it's gonna be like a really chill
Okay.
thing, so I might be able to do it.
All right.
So, all right, man.
My dude, love you, man.
Love you too.
All right. Talk to y'all later.